Welcome back to Beyond the Score podcast. I'm here, Harry. Josh is on the other line. I saw Josh about 2 days ago because I was in New York, and it was really great. I was up for a wedding. One of our friends' wedding was around. It was just great seeing everybody. It was great seeing you, Josh. I got to see the family, and it was just, great to be back in New York for just a couple of days, spending Labor Day up there too.
Yeah, man, good to have you here. Definitely love it when you're here. Wish we could do it more, but obviously you're there, I'm here, so whatever. Shout out to Deej and stuff. Congratulations, and it was a great time.
Congratulations, Matt and Steph. But Josh, you say that, but I know the truth is you couldn't have waited for me to get back down to Florida so we can get back to podcasting. Not for any other reason. Don't worry. But yeah, no, it was great just being up there, seeing everybody. We had a great time. We got to spend some time together. I got to come over, see the little girls, and it was always a blast. And I will say though, it is great to be back home. I mean, so it gets a little too crazy up there sometimes, and then eventually on the day 3, day 4 comes around, and you're like, all right, ready to go home, pack a bag, get out of here. But we're back here in Florida. We're back here podcasting. We're back here doing what's good and bringing you guys some sports stuff. We got some cool things to talk about. We got football. It is literally here. Football is here, everyone. Can you guys believe that? The NFL will be, we record on Wednesdays. The first game is going to be tomorrow, but, we go live on Fridays. Football is back. NFL, Chiefs, Ravens. But we're not going to talk about the game in itself. We have something else we want to actually talk about that isn't really talked about too much. You hear some reports here and there, but there's some potential in the Kansas City Chiefs maybe moving out. Josh, where are they thinking about going?
Yeah, man. I know that their roots are from Texas, and their mayor is someone who is very adamant about trying to get them to the Dallas area. So they would like to. Dallas would like to have them back in Texas.
Well, Chris Hunt, who is the chairman, CEO, and the acting manager, so to speak, for the Kansas City Chiefs, he has came out with a plan for a huge renovation for this team, their stadium, $800 million renovation that would take place after the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And this is something that he wants the taxpayers to pay for, at least a portion of it. And I think this is where it gets interesting, right? People don't necessarily want their taxes to go up for a stadium, especially, $800 is a huge project. And so I could see this being an avenue where, you pick up in a team, in a dynasty, these guys are, 3-time Super Bowl champions over the last few years, pick up and go to Dallas. I mean, that would be kind of crazy, especially because there's already a team in Dallas.
Yeah, it'd be blasphemous, in my opinion. I know that they have the Cowboys there in Dallas, and the Texas has the Texans too. I don't think it's a necessary move. I know that Texas has a thriving economy, a lot of money, so I think the Dallas mayor just put it out there just to try and get some buzz, get some news. Maybe the Chiefs hadn't thought about it, and maybe they will think about it now. But I think that it's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, I think it's kind of ridiculous. What do you think?
I think it's interesting. The truth is, obviously, Jerry Jones would be at the forefront of preventing or trying to prevent this from happening. But having another team go in there, a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, in a market that's smaller, being where they are currently, and going into a market that currently holds quote unquote America's team in the Cowboys. And
Big quote unquote.
it is, well, that's what a lot of people call them. I mean, it's sad to say, but Cowboys
It's so
stink. But
it's so drowned out. I mean, I feel like that was when Aikman was there. I mean, I feel like America, like, I don't know, it's kind of the opposite at this point. I mean, I think America, I don't want to see them fail, but I feel like if you look on Twitter X, if you look on
Well, it
X,
doesn't really matter anyway what they want to call themselves. They're the Dallas Cowboys, and that's all they are in our eyes. But the truth is, this would be interesting because if they don't want to pay for these taxes, if this gets vetoed or struck down by the city of Kansas City, then what happens? Because the Chiefs aren't going to pay for this themselves. They've already said that. They expect this to come out. And if it doesn't go through, they can easily pick up and go someplace else, whether it's Dallas or someplace else. It just, if it was Dallas, it makes it even more interesting just having that battle between the Cowboys and the Chiefs. I mean, I don't know what they would be called, if they'd be called the Dallas Chiefs at that point, but I think that this is it's
Maybe
more.
Texas,
I
maybe
think
Texas Chiefs,
I think it's
something
more
like
of a
that.
possibility that we think. Obviously, this is still something extremely raw and like, you know, barely up in the air. But from what we're seeing, there are avenues where if I'm the CEO of an organization and my number one thing here is how am I not only going to put on a winning team but also make myself a profitable organization here, moving to Dallas makes a lot of sense. And when you're a team like Kansas City and you might want to, you're in a dynasty right now, right? You are a dynasty, but you're not a legacy, not just yet at least. You're getting there, but not just there yet. Teams like Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, the Giants, for instance, these are legacy teams. And I think if the Kansas City Chiefs want to be there, they might think that they have to be in the right market to be
Mm.
considered that. Because the truth is, Dallas is a much bigger city. It's a much more marketable city than Kansas City is. And so, I mean, I don't know if this is really going to have much traction, but, they're thinking about 2026 renovation. So, we'll see. But if this gets vetoed by, Kansas residents, then what happens, right? Do they reconsider and go someplace else? Because the stadium does need the renovation for a team that's winning Super Bowls left and right. They're the two-time reigning Super Bowl
Yeah.
champions. So, there has to be some sort of solution. I think obviously dollars talk, and so I don't see this being as something that's an impossible thing or even an unlikely thing. I think it's improbable, but listen, improbable, unlikely, whatever. But the truth is, I think there's some motion behind this that really could be something that we see in the future.
I don't know. I think that, I mean, you could look at it that a world class organization deserves a world class facility, fine. But just Dallas, like you said, as much as I threw a little shade on the America's team thing, you're not going to go into their city and try and take over those fans, regardless of how many Super Bowls you've won. Love their Cowboys. You're not going to win those people over. I mean, to be honest, you'd probably be better off going into Manhattan because the Jets and Giants don't even play in New York.
That's
I mean,
actually that was a good point you made there. But I will say I don't think it's about taking away Cowboys fans. I think it's just about being in that city, having that competition, being there. And the truth is, like you said, they were originally from that area, and so there could be other fans that are nearby that can easily fill up that stadium and get the job done for them. Is this going to happen? I'd say there's probably like a 7.5% chance this
That's
actually
literally what I
happens.
was that's literally what was on the tip of my tongue. That is the craziest number that you could have said.
That
I said to myself 10, I was like, "Nah, that's too much. 7.5, there's no way this guy actually says it. That's crazy." So, I mean, I guess that's the actual percentage that it happens.
It is, and that's why I had the same thought. I was like, 10% is too high. I can't give it 10%. I got to be less than 10. I think 7.5 is a good number. I think if you want them to move in general to any city, then I give them 10%.
So let's give a little history lesson on the Chiefs that I did a little research because I didn't know. They were the Dallas Texans from 1960 to 1962. So it's not like it was a long time thing, which it's perfectly fair to assume that there might have been some fans sticking around if they were there for more than 3 years. But I mean, I don't think they had a crazy amount of success. I mean, it looks like they might have won one thing in those years, the last year, and then they won and dipped. So I mean, if anything, the people of Dallas probably don't like them. But with that being said, there's so many different markets, so many new markets, emerging markets that you can look at that would be a place for them if they were to move. I think that the 7.5% is of moving in general. I don't think it's of moving to Dallas. I think that Jerry Jones would hold it up as long as he was alive, and then whoever took over after him, but not wishing him a shorter life or anything, just saying that he like as long as he's alive to do that, and then whoever after, maybe they're a business person that they can try and market that a certain way. I don't know, but
I don't like
to
you,
keep
Jerry
him
Jones.
safe.
I don't really care. I don't care what happens to you. I don't want you to. I don't want you to kick rocks. But listen, life is life. It happens. Life. The only thing that's we're sure of in this world is death. But hey, listen. But what I got from what you just said right there is that basically the Chiefs were irrelevant in the state of Texas when they were there.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's fine. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We got to get into something else. Our pick of the weeks. Let's go. Let's go to our pick of the weeks. We got something to bring you guys where we think confidence, right? Where we think this one thing is almost likely to happen. And I'll start this week since you started last week. My
For
first
sure.
pick is, and Ben, if you could bring that up, we got the Titans +4 over the
I love it.
Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears, in my opinion, can make a ton of noise, but the truth is they're still a young team, rookie quarterback. He's going to play his first NFL game. The Titans, in my opinion, they're a little further along. I like Will Levis. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he can really make a name for himself. He's got the weapons. He's got the tools. He's got Tony Pollard as his running back and a fortified offensive line. So I think this is something that that they're sleeping on the Titans. Go get your money's worth on them because +4 is a solid line.
I agree. I think that they need to put some respect on the Titans' name and the work they put in. That division is one of the most thriving divisions, if not the highest thriving division. I think that the Texans, the Colts, it's going to be a fun year. And I think that the Bears, Caleb Williams came out and said he doesn't get nervous, which is fine. I respect that. But to have that level of calm, that level of acting like it's not a big deal, I think that gets you punched in the mouth when another team sees you on the other side. Oh, you're not nervous. Let's bring some extra pressure. Let's make sure like we're not going to look at him like he's a rookie where we can just sit back and let him make mistakes. We're gonna fluster him, get him frustrated, get him in the media talking bad about his teammates.
Thank,
And they're not thinking necessarily about that. But I think overall, I think that the Titans are much more veteran, and I think that it's gonna be a close game. And I think the Bears could win, but I really don't see it being um a margin that's gonna be so wide.
thank you for agreeing with me. I really appreciate it. It's very nice when we're on the same page. So what is your pick? What do we got going for you?
Yeah, so we're gonna go with fan of the show, Amon Ross St. Brown over 84.5 yards. And the show is a fan of him, not him being a fan of the show. I hope someday he's a fan of the show, but he's a stud. He had 1,515 yards last year on 119 catches, and he did not make the Pro Bowl. And if you watch Receiver on Netflix, he is very upset about that. In the playoff game against the Rams last year, the same team that they're playing, he had 110 yards on 7 catches, and it was Jared Goff redemption game, and I don't expect Jared Goff to take his foot off the gas against his old team. And I think Amon Ra is a stud. And before I get your opinion, Ben, if we could run a little clip on what Amon Ra brings to the table.
In my opinion, he is the best wide
Teams
receiver.
in, there's the shotgun snap back and looking, a lot of time, throws deep down the middle, got a man wide open. Amon Ra St. Brown inside the 25, inside the 20, inside the 15, and finally shoved out of bounds at the 11-yard line. Alohi Gilman, the safety, finally made the stop, but Jared had all day to throw that football, and Amon Ra came wide open. That's a gain of 48 on the play. Jared takes the snap, fakes the give, boots right, throws underneath, got a complete Amon Ra.
Hey, you think it's safe to say he is the Detroit Lions?
I think if he wasn't on that team would be a wreck. He is, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in this season. In my opinion, hands down. CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, don't really care. Amon Ra is the guy. Lock it in. 84.5 yards. Give him 184.5 yards. I take the over. Okay.
184.
I would
That's pretty
take
low.
it. It would be plus 17 million, but still, I'd take that shot. I'm not betting under on him ever in my life. He is sick. I drafted him in fantasy in my second league yesterday. I am super happy to have him. He is an amazing wide receiver, and he will definitely be a Pro Bowler this season. So, Amon
I
Ra,
agree on that for sure.
Amon Ra, you are great. We would love if you wanted to watch an episode of our show. I think we would be very ecstatic about that. And so, Titans +4, Amon Ra over 84.5. Lock it up. Parlay it if you really want to. Go
Nice
make
little
some money
two-piece
out
ticket.
there.
Put it with the Giants money line too. Why not?
Put it with the Giants money line. Vikings got nothing on us, G-Men, this week. That is for sure. So, football, we are excited. You're back, finally. We have all been waiting very long for this. It's only been an off season, but it feels like it's been worlds away, and now you're back, and we're excited. But we go from that, we go down to baseball, and we got to talk about some of these bullpens that are happening. First off, Ben, bring up this chart that we have over here. We got to talk about something that is really, really concerning to Yankee fans. I'm saying
And I'm
Yankee
sure
fans
the
in the
other fans on
general,
the list. Yeah, but this
but
is pathetic.
but this is
Like,
this list right here shows you the blown saves leaders.
all
Clay
right, would you like to
Holmes,
read it for the people that are audio?
Clay Holmes is number 1 with 11 blown saves. Everybody else, Jalen Beeks, Ryan Thompson, David Robertson, Daniel Hudson, JoJo Romero, and Ryan Presley are not even closers on their teams. This is so, you can get a blown save 7th, 8th inning as a relief pitcher.
Yeah.
So none of
Mhm.
these guys are closers. The only actual closer on this list is the New York Yankees closer, Clay Holmes. And he blew another game yesterday that was just horrendous to watch. And it is really concerning because they can't keep putting him out there anymore. They have to have this conversation with him and say, "Listen, this is not you. This is management. We got to figure out who's going to be the best closer in certain scenarios, and right now it's not you." And the truth is, if they continue down this path, he's going to be blowing bigger games because we're playing teams like, Texas Rangers, and we're blowing games against Wyatt Langford, who's hitting a grand slam, rookie who's got an OPS in the 690s. Come on, man. This is just not what this just can't happen, right? And you go and you see the top closers in the league: Emmanuel Clase, Mason Miller. These guys are gems, I tell you. And if Clay Holmes blew half as many games as he's had so far, and I get passionate about it because we are Yankee fans, but the
Yeah, for
truth
sure.
is, just in baseball general, this is just a tough thing to see, right? Because you expect the Yankees to have such a great closer, Mariano Rivera. Mariano Rivera has been the closer for the Yankees for 20 plus seasons, and he's the best closer in the history of the game, unanimous Hall of Famer. You expect that the Yankees are going to be able to get it done, especially with their bullpen and their closer, and this is just a disaster. He's probably needed to have been pulled weeks ago, and Aaron Boone keeps throwing him out there, seeing if he's going to stick against the wall.
I have a question for you. I found a stat that I saved for the show that I wanted to know what your opinion was. That to Jose Trevino, his ERA is a 4.3. To Austin Wells, his ERA is a 2.6. I feel like I love Trevi. I love what he brings to the locker room, but I think that Austin Wells needs to in every single way. He's shout out Austin Wells. I'm not really trying to make it a whole Yankee segment, but if you can pitch to a 2.61, you're not going to blow 11 of 40 saves. I mean, Emmanuel Clase that you mentioned having an incredible year, 41 saves, 3 blown. That's 4 more opportunities and 12 more saves. It's pitiful.
And so this is why you see the Cleveland Guardians making a distance in their division, and why the Yankees can't pick up games on the Orioles, because when Clay
Yeah.
keeps blowing these games, I mean, I was trying to say was if he blew half as many, the Yankees would have a 5-6 game lead over the Orioles.
Mhm.
And this is what they're dealing with now with a closer that's so inconsistent that, and we've talked about this, right? We went back and talked about this when, it was the Yankees versus the Orioles in that game when Ben Rice hit that 3-run home run and Clay came in and
Yeah.
blows. Since then, right? And I agree. Aaron Boone, and this goes back to how you manage a club. Aaron Boone is great with the players in itself, but when it comes to game time decisions, he doesn't know what he's doing. And this is the truth, because if that's the case, that's a stat, and they love their analytics, they love their stats. Anytime he's pitching, Austin Wells needs to be in that game.
Yeah, I agree with you.
There's no reason why. That's 1.5 runs right there. It's a huge difference, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
And
he has more earned runs with Trevi in less innings.
to be honest with you, I think they should just they should tell him, we're going to pull you back, and we're going to make this a case-by-case scenario. Maybe Tommy Kahnle gets some opportunity. Maybe Jake Cousins gets some opportunity.
I like
and maybe
that
he'll
guy.
get some opportunities too, but it's not going to be every single day, and he's going to need to get some reps in the 6th and the 7th inning to just show that he's got his sinker going the way he needs it to go and the rest of his pitches going the way he needs to go. So whatever happens, pull him off. There's no way you could, if they're in a safe situation again today, you can't bring him out there. I'm sorry.
I agree with you, and I think that me, I was singing Mason Miller, give everything for him, not Dominguez, but everything else, and I still stand on that. That this offseason, I mean, the A's have shown signs of life where they could start a little rebuild here for Vegas, but I think that Mason Miller is going to be a little ahead of their timeline in terms of if he stays a closer. So I think that if they can get something big for him, which they will, that can kickstart them as an organization and be a win-win.
Well, Playoffs are about 3 weeks away, and there needs to be some changes, or the Yankees are going to be doomed, in my opinion. The bullpen's very important for the playoffs, so if there's not major change, at least in terms of how it's structured, this team could be finding themselves in a very difficult position. So, we could keep going on about the Yankees and their closers and, the rest of the bullpen, but we actually have another baseball topic. We have a piece of fan mail. Ben, I want you to get in here and let us know what are we going to be discussing when it comes to these umpires, because we have discussed umpires plenty of times in the past, and so this is something that is very important for the baseball world.
Yes, we
Yeah, well,
need right.
what's up, guys?
What's up?
I'm Ben. So yeah, we got some fan mail. Pretty excited. So today's fan mail comes from Justin Malinsky. He wants to know what you guys think of giving umpires an 8% raised in base salary based on performance with stipulations. This would be to incentivize umpires to be financially motivated to get better and be accurate, and it would also penalize umpires who aren't doing their jobs to the standard.
I'd
Yeah,
like to
so
start with this one if I can,
yeah,
actually, Josh. I think
absolutely.
I
We're
think
both
Justin
passionate, so we're both jumping off the rip.
Justin, I want to thank you so much for that. That was actually a really great point you made here, and this is why we want to bring it on and talk about it, because I think theoretically what you've brought to the table could work. Will it work though, or will it happen? I don't think so. I think theoretically, when you're incentivizing umpires, that's how it should be done. We like to see that because then at least it's performance based, just like how players are. If you're right, you get paid more. If you're wrong, you're less likely to have that pay increase. But even at a percentage, there's a certain rate. I remember we were discussing this, where at a certain rate, even if you're not, relatively accurate, you're still qualifying for some incentives to be in terms of your salary going up. Now, will it work? Will they bring it into it? Definitely not, because I don't think the MLB Umpires Association, their union, is going to take on something like this. I think it's already too in favor for them to give up so much where they're like, yeah, let's do this, incentivize it. I think if there's something that's really going to take away from them, maybe the robo umps might scare them off a little bit, but at the end of the day, they're still going to be out there. They're still going to be getting paid. And so whether or not they care about having their puffy chest and say, oh, we actually matter in the games, now more than we will if these robo umps come in, that's one thing to consider. But I think money talks so much that if they're going to be losing, potential money on the table here, they probably start a little lower than they are now in terms of the average. I'm not sure if this can work. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, so I actually I reached out to Justin to get a little more context on this because I think it's such an interesting topic where it would apply like your, let's say for 2024, your whole base would dictate what happens for 25 with your pay. And I think that the reason that it might work is because giving the 8% raise is that covers more than half of the umpires would be making at least a little bit more money next year, and you get that full 8% if you get 100% of your calls right. But at the same time, if you're at 88%, which you shouldn't be umpiring if you're 88%, but if you're at 88%, then you have a 12% salary decrease. So it's about umpires betting on themselves. And I also think some younger umpires getting into the game might like it more because the minimum we've spoke about $300,000 salary. That's actually an average. It starts at 150, ends at not ends caps at 450 with the most veteran umpires. And I also think that you could incentivize, maybe have like umpire of the month bonus. You could have a bonus for the best umpire at the end of the year. Maybe that bonus means you're the home plate umpire for every game in the World Series. I don't know. But I think that overall, in terms of working, it would take a lot to get people who have been stuck in their ways for so long to get them to adjust on something. I think if you would see, I think the robo umps is something really cool. I think the challenges in the minor leagues are something that show the potential of it. But at the same time, that's stayed in the minor leagues for years now. So it shows they're not willing to act so fast. And I think that there's a lot of change being made in the MLB, and that's not necessarily always a good thing. But I think that the game's in a good direction right now, as much as a few things need to be changed in terms of the integrity and the actual purity of the product. Because if you have umpires blowing games, you should be wanting to be in the media, getting your awards, getting your recognition for good things. Like you don't want to build a brand of being a bad umpire and just be okay with it. I mean, maybe you do, but I think that there are a lot of good umpires out there. They're doing their job really hard, and I think that there's got to be some incentive for the ones that actually put the necessary effort in to get better. Because if you look at the data, we have data to show that umpires can get better. Umpires can work hard at their craft just like any other skill, which it is a skill to be really good at. It's a very hard to do, but they do need something to push them over the edge, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know.
Well said, in my opinion. To be honest with you, incentivizing them would drive, I mean, just in general, a person to want to do better at their job. But I think the comparison will be on other sports too. They'll sit there and say, well, there's no incentives for NFL referees or NBA refs, or, and same thing with the NHL. So why do this to the MLB when, there's definitely incorrect calls done in any other sport? But the truth is, this is a little bit more clear cut when we're talking about certain things, right? Like the strike zone, for instance. There's a box, and the strike, it's either a strike or it's a ball. And the fact that these are being improperly called too many times, taking away at bats from these players. Literally, if you take the first pitch, you take the second pitch it should be a ball, and now it's 0-2, and now you're defending the strike zone, and you're probably going to be swinging off and striking out. It's a very difficult thing. And so, they're kind of ruining the game a little bit, but obviously there needs to be a resolution for this, because going down the line, this is really hurting baseball. So whether or not it's the robo-umps or it's figuring out if this is even a potential, which, listen, maybe there is a route where they can go down and have this conversation and see if, they can be innovative and start this whole thing up where these umpires are willing to do something like this. It would be really great. I think everyone would be much more appreciative. Fans would be much more appreciative that umps take this route, and at least it'll also, the positive for them is, yes, they can not only get paid a lot more potentially, but they could also have the recognition that they should get if they're doing the job well. And, I mean, we go back, all right, Jim Joyce has been getting death threats since 2010 for his blown call against Armando Galarraga. These social media is much bigger than it's ever been, right? And so as these major calls might happen here and there, this is something to consider for these umpires. Look at the way he's been living, poor guy. I mean, obviously, I don't think that's the way you should go down, but it's the truth. I mean, he said it. He's been getting death threats for the last 15 years because of a blown call, and it was a major one, but this is what happens. So, baseball is something that we love it when there's these changes that are happening constantly, because we believe that whether or not they might not make sense in the time being, they will over time, and they usually do. Like the pitch clock, that actually worked out perfectly. I think it's been so great for baseball, and I think a lot of people agree with it. So, I mean, baseball has been very innovative in a lot of things that they've been doing, and so I think, there's a positive light at the end of the tunnel when it's regards to this. Justin, thank you again for such a great, point bringing up to us about these umpires. We've obviously discussed them in the past, and so we're really appreciative of you giving us something to really lay back on and talk about when it comes to the umps. When we go from baseball, we're going to go from basketball, but not NBA. We're going to go to the WNBA. We got to give some recognition to two great basketball players. We got to talk about this Rookie of the Year chase. It's going to be between, obviously, two players, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, two great players for the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky, respectively. I don't think it's really a close race, but now there's some talk that they should be doing two Rookie of the Years for these two players, which I disagree with in its entirety. I think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Josh, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that it's a little wild that there's the lack of respect that's on Caitlin Clark's name, and I think that a tweet that we gave to Ben to show, which we'll show in just a second, shows that even Stephen A. Smith has come on the side of Caitlin Clark. And I think that he's someone that's very, very hard on people to be good. But I think when you show consistency over time, you earn the respect of the big people in the media. And I mean, for a forward to be shooting 38% and to be on the level of someone who's shooting just a couple points lower than that from 3 point, I think that that's insane. And a lot of people say that she gets a lot of her rebounds from her own misses, and I don't think that's true. I think that she has a lot of skill. She's a rookie. She's going to need to refine her game, but just comparing her to Caitlin Clark is not something that I think is reasonable. Comparing her as a rising star in this league, saying that they'll both be faces of the league growing, fine. And I think that Stephen A. Smith coming out and saying to one of the former WNBA champions that she wasn't giving the respect to Caitlin Clark, I think is a really big step for Caitlin Clark and for the WNBA to kind of come together. So Ben, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's play that so everyone can see what we're talking about here.
Now, she made news last week when she sat up there and was applauding Indiana Fever players, but then forgot to mention Caitlin Clark. She jumped all in my ass because I sat up there and said, hey, how you going to ignore Caitlin Clark? You know what she brings to the table. How you just going to ignore her? That's not an accident. Cheryl Swoops is a champion. A champion. Look at her tweet and what she put up about me. You talk about whomever and whatever you want to on your podcast, correct? So why can't I? Also, did you listen to the entire episode? Nope. I have a personal relationship with these players, and they deserve recognition as well. That ain't the point, Cheryl Swoops. Yes, I did listen to your entire podcast. You didn't mention Caitlin Clark. So I was right, number one. Number two, your personal relationship, what that got to do with your coverage? Ain't nobody said don't mention them. Ain't nobody said don't applaud them. Nobody told you to ignore them. What we're saying is if you're going to give the Indiana Fever all the credit in the world, how you going to mention the Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark's name even coming up?
Preach it. Preach, baby. Stephen A. Preach. You're saying it right. This Caitlin Clark, the way she started the season might not have been the way you expect, but when you're making the adjustment from collegiate to the WNBA or any real level, it's a big adjustment. She still played well, and now, really since the Olympics break, especially, but even before that too, she is off the charts. I mean, she's averaging 18.7, 5.6 rebounds, 8.4 assists, 42% from the field, 34 from three, and 90 from the free throw line. Angel Reese is averaging 13 and 13 with 38 from the field and 73 from the free throw line. Doesn't take many threes, but shooting 15%. This isn't this is not a conversation. Angel Reese, she's a great player. I'm not trying to talk to you directly. You're a good player though. But there's really, I mean, look at the teams too, right? The Indiana Fever are locked for the playoffs. They've locked the spot. And right now, the Chicago Sky are 11 and 22. They're not a good team. They've lost at least their 5 last games in a row. And so I don't see this being even a consideration, to be honest with you. What Caitlin Clark, we're not even talking about what Caitlin Clark has done overall for the WNBA and how much recognition she's brought to the sport in itself. We're just talking about the numbers and how they played this season. And if Angel Reese outplayed Caitlin Clark this season, she would have deserved to have been the Rookie of the Year. But I don't think this is a question. And you want to give recognition, fine, that's fine. But you got to also give recognition to Caitlin Clark too on a podcast. If you're not mentioning her name in WNBA and for Rookie of the Year, I don't know what you're doing. You should probably not be doing what you're doing. I don't care who you are. I don't care what relationship you had, and I don't care if you've been in the WNBA and you're a finals winner, whatever. Don't care. If you're not giving the recognition that's duly deserved, you're spitting out the wrong stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that having a personal relationship with the players is great and all, but in reality, Caitlin Clark never throws her teammates under the bus. No one ever says, don't talk about her team. Everyone's just so obsessed with Caitlin Clark and what she brings and that she's selling out arenas. The old heads are probably mad because they couldn't do it. It's something really impressive, really trailblazing. And honestly, I think Angel Reese is polarizing too in terms of what she brings to the table in the game and in her brand. I think she does a good job with that. But I'm not a big comparer of the players in terms of when you talk about like who's the best of all time and certain things. I don't like doing that. I like to appreciate talent. But when you look at these numbers, it's not even something that you could say, all right, Angel Reese is averaging 13 and 13 and her team's a playoff team and Caitlin Clark is not, because that's not true. You have everything pointing in Caitlin Clark's favor. I think Angel Reese will continue to grow, will continue to get that field goal percentage up. But I think that these former players need to stop sticking to whatever is driving this and realize that Caitlin Clark is here. She's come to play and she's here to take your job if you're not ready. But she's not even aggressive about it. She just wants to win. She wants to be a champion and she wants to be a great player.
Well, speaking of which, champions are not an easy thing in any sport. And we got a reigning, defending NBA champion in Asia Wilson, who's going to be the runaway. Two-time, of course, apologies, Asia Wilson. Two-time defending champion of the WNBA for the Las Vegas Aces. She is a runaway for MVP this season, and deservedly so. She is incredible. I mean, what a basketball player she is. And I think she's minus 3,500 currently. I think Caitlin Clark's at plus 7,500. Just huge gap right there. And she's putting up some major numbers. Her team is the 4th seed currently in the standings. They're going to be another, run of the playoffs, obviously. They're currently, if the playoffs ended today, they'd be playing the Seattle Storm. So that would be a really fun matchup, too, to see. But, I mean, what a player she is. And, I mean, what she's done for the WNBA in itself has already been so major.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she's an absolute stud. I think she's a great player, and the same conversation that we're having right now about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, you could have with Caitlin Clark and Asia Wilson about Asia Wilson, where it's not even close. Where you look at I mean, fine, the team's records are close, but no, 27 and a half points a game, 2.7 blocks, averaging over a double double. No, you can't give Caitlin Clark the flowers like that. Like, you're a great player, Caitlin, and I think you're doing a lot of great things for girls in sports. As a guy with two daughters, I think that that's something that's really cool. But I think that the people who are pushing that are just getting defensive about people who are jumping down their throats about Angel Reese. But it's another non-conversation. I think the odds show it at minus 3,500, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out over time if Caitlin Clark comes for that over the years. But this year, it's over.
I think she definitely would agree with you too. She would say the same thing. I don't deserve it this season, but there's probably a lot of people who are betting a lot of money that are going to sprinkle a little bit on Caitlin Clark just because the odds are, where they are. But I think all those people who are doing that are, just throwing money down the drain at that
I think
point.
it's stupid because literally everyone wants to crap on her name. So why would you expect those same media writers to vote her as the MVP? It would make no sense to me.
It doesn't, and obviously the Aces are a very good team. They're defending champion back to back. The Indiana Fever have not made the playoffs in a couple of years, and so now they're getting back into things. Caitlin Clark just needs a couple more years before that consideration is there. I mean, listen, put up the numbers, you'll get there. I think she would agree with this as well. But the WNBA is very top heavy. The 7 teams have already clinched the playoffs. The Indiana Fever are the 7th seed. Oh no, I'm sorry. They're currently the 6th seed. Actually, the Mercury are 17 and 17. But you have a bunch of teams that are fighting for the 8th seed that are not very good, and including the Chicago Sky and Angel Reese. Currently, right now, they're the 8th seed, but they're tied with the Atlanta Dream at 11 and 22. Horrible record, but one of those teams are going to make the playoffs. And then you also have the Washington Mystics at 10 and 23. So there's about 7 games remaining for these teams to finish out the season. And so the WNBA finals or the WNBA playoffs is going to be an interesting one to see, considering the New York Liberty, obviously Ionescu and Brittany Stewart over there, or Brianna Stewart. I'm sorry, I don't know where I got Brittany from, but Brianna Stewart, great team over there too. And so it's going to be a really cool playoffs to see. I think this is one of the ones that you'll have a lot more focus on, and I'm quite interested in seeing where this plays out. Who is actually going to win? Are the Vegas Aces, are they going to be able to three-peat at this time, or will we see another champion in the WNBA?
And Harry, Chicago is in Atlanta to play the Dream on the second to last game day of the season. So if this holds
Wow.
up, that could be a really important game.
Wow, it's crazy how sports works out. This is what makes it so beautiful, is that like things like this happen. It's like you would think it's like arranged this way, that the teams that are fighting for the last playoff spot are going to be playing, a couple days before the season, and that's going to probably determine who's going to make the playoffs. It's really going to come down
And
to that
then
game.
And then if you even want to get a little saucy with it, if Washington gets a little better and gets into their last game is against Caitlin Clark. If you want to make it full circle like that
Whose
on the
last
last
game
day of
is
the
it?
season.
Whose last
Well,
game is it?
you said Washington was 1 game behind them, so if they keep up
Oh,
with
right, Washington.
if they
Yeah,
keep
they're right there too. So I mean, it's going to be interesting, and we're going to bring you guys some WNBA because Caitlin Clark is. I mean, listen, Caitlin Clark is magical to watch. She's incredible. Huge Caitlin Clark fan. Caitlin Clark, if you're ever watching our podcast, you are more than welcome to ever want to come by. We will fly you down here. I'm not sure if it'll be commercial like you're used to, but we'll get you on a JetBlue flight, and we'll make sure you have the extra leg room as well on there too. We'll make sure you're nice and comfortable and bring you down here and hopefully talk some WNBA if that's even a possibility. Um, we love this. Thank you guys in terms of giving us all this intel, in terms of, Justin, thank you so much for giving us this great point of view that you've brought us. All our fans who've been commenting, who have been coming along, watching us day in and day out, seeing our stuff on social media. We appreciate you guys to the max. We wouldn't be here without you guys. We love doing this, but really it's what you guys say and, reply to us that keeps us going, that really makes us feel better about bringing you guys some of the best sports stuff. And we really hope that, we're bringing you guys every possible avenue to be able to get some watches and some shows in for you guys.
Yeah, and I think that let Justin be an example of how much we value what you bring in front of us. If we don't understand the question, we will reach out and get more context. Or you could even send us a voice memo in our DMs. We're really open to anything, or even our email. We can get that to you, and if you DM us, because we could play your voice on here. We could have you on here. we're trying to expand the network in terms of sports, in terms of people who love watching sports as much as we do. And going what you said also about having the WNBA. If you got game, you got a place here.
Literally, that's true. Amen to that. Honestly, thank you guys again so much. Just let us know, and we'll bring you guys on a show. That's what we want to do.
Oh, that's fly.
You like that, right? That one was for
rhymes.
you, Josh. Yeah, baby. That's what we got to do. And let's not forget, the best part of our shows are famous yogisms, probably one of the most famous ones that he's ever put out there. Baseball is 90% mental. The other half is physical. Thank you guys so much.
I love that.
You guys have a great day. Thank you for watching Beyond the Score podcast.